Alright, so I just want to talk to you about a couple of quick things which I think are really important. And when this all started, like obviously we're all getting up to speed with the terminology and so on, but there's one little point we start with. They first started talking about the case fatality rate. So it's important to know what that is. Now the case initially was somebody who goes into hospital. Okay, somebody who goes into hospital and is tested and they work out they've got COVID-19, it becomes part of the case fatality rate. So if 100 people go into hospital and they work out they've got COVID-19 and one of them dies, your CFR, your case fatality rate, is 1 in 100, so it's 1%, right? The other terminology they use is the infection fatality rate. So infection is the number of people who's totally infected, like everywhere. So like in the flu season, that might be 1 million, 10 million. In the UK, it might be 20, 30, I don't know. Around the world, they say it's 1 billion, but they have to sort of guess at that because infected people don't necessarily go to hospital, right? They don't show up, they don't get tested. So it's just like how far did the infection spread in the community, and they make a reasonable estimate for it. And then obviously, so your infection fatality rate is going to be much smaller, like 1 in 10,000, 1 in 100,000, something like this. So then there's another little one which we can talk about, which is the mortality rate, which is the number of people who've died of a given disease against the population of an area. So like the UK's population is like 67 million. So if 100 people, it'd be 100 people. Well, actually they say it's like 41,000 here. So it's 41,000 against 67 million, right? Over 67 million. So you have case fatality rate, infection fatality rate, and mortality rate, and they're all different. Okay. Now, what's happening now is they're calling everything cases. This is why this is important. Everything's a case. So people who are just healthy and getting tested, like in the back of the supermarket car park up here, they get put down as, or the media's reporting it as a case. We're saying, oh, cases are rising in Oxford, cases are rising in this part of the UK, cases are rising in this part of America. They're not all cases. The medical terminology of a case is somebody who goes to hospital, who has to present at hospital because they're so ill. Okay, so we need to be aware of how that terminology has been sort of used on us or distorted since the beginning of this pandemic, right? It's really important. Now, another second point now, another thing that people I've had lots of conversations with people in the street and in all kinds of places actually about coronavirus, and what they say to you is like, oh yeah, but what about Denmark, or what about Japan, or what about Sweden, and this kind of thing. Now, as it turns out, one of the driving forces of how serious the deaths numbers have been in different countries is what has preceded it in the preceding year. So here's the example. So like if you're in a forest and you don't have a bushfire for maybe 1 season or 2 seasons, there'll be a lot of dry wood, a lot of dead wood in the forest that can be burnt up when the fire occurs. And it's similar with the respiratory diseases. So in the flu season, like if you had a very sort of soft flu season, not many deaths last year, then when the coronavirus hit, there would be lots of people who are vulnerable, susceptible to the coronavirus that it would take out. So people who are with comorbidities who maybe otherwise would have died last year if they'd had a serious flu season. And that seems to be a major factor in the sort of extent to which the coronavirus has killed people in various countries. Is basically how soft their flu season was the previous year. Something else, the third point now, is about the sort of humidity, which is often overlooked. So people are looking at thinking of all these interventions that human beings are doing, like masks and social distancing and stuff. One of them is the humidity. So for example, in America, they have not just one peak, they tend to have with respiratory diseases like a second hump, if you like, not quite a peak, because they have different areas of humidity. You've got like north, the east coast, the sort of the drier states, and then you've got the west coast. So that they have a split hump, which, so when they're saying like, oh, the cases are going up because they're firstly misrepresenting cases, and they're also misrepresenting the actuality, which is that they're not going up because you're not behaving or because you're not social distancing or you're not taking enough care. It's because that's what it does, because it follows the humidity. So there's also a seasonal variability to the coronavirus, and for the most part, it's following those seasonal variables. As in, it's for example, and here's the key thing. In Europe, they've tested, like Spain and Italy, they've tested the sewage from 2019 and found the coronavirus in various deposits in the sewage. In like the earliest one is in March 2019 in Italy, but certainly by the autumn or the fall of 2019, they had found it in Spain and places like this. But the deaths didn't start until the season was appropriate for the virus to sort of emerge, which was in March and February. Okay, so that's a major factor. The human interventions are negligible. Lockdown hasn't done anything, masks haven't done anything, social distancing hasn't done anything. And the last thing I want to talk to you about is like, it relates to what we're talking about, the cases, is that what we now have is a case-demic. So if you look at the figures from Spain over the past 9 weeks, they have masses of cases because they're testing everywhere, and maybe because maybe it's in the community, or maybe the test is faulty. All these factors are at play, but the death has been very minimal. And what is actually happening is we've got a case-demic like we had with H1N1, the swine flu, where people were given vaccines for that, based on the media hysteria about a case-demic, what they're calling a case-demic, so actually not many deaths but loads of cases, and it damaged people and they got compensated for it. So that's a problem. But what's also happening is we're now in September, so the increase in respiratory problems and disease is ramping up for the coming flu season. So they're going to tell you that it's your fault and you're not social distancing, but it's the natural order of things for the incidences of respiratory disease to increase as we approach the coming winter. So just a few things there that we all need to be aware about when we're talking about this, because people going around telling me that I need to be wearing a mask and that people are selfish and they're killing grannies. No. The information I'm citing, I've tried to do it in a brief way. I've just plucked things out of a really excellent talk by Ivor, which takes 37 minutes, but most of you won't watch that, so I thought I'd select some tidbits and points out for you, so that hopefully it's in a more bite-sized way that you can have time to listen to it. All right, take care. Bye-bye.